I have a question. Is a player averaging nearly 30 points while recording a triple-double every night deserving of the MVP award? What about a player putting together one of the greatest defensive seasons the league has ever seen? Or maybe a player averaging 34 points per game who managed to score 40 points a night for an entire month? Is that enough to earn MVP honors? And what about a player delivering the most efficient 30-point scoring season in NBA history while leading his team towards 65 wins? The answer seems simple. Every one of those seasons is worthy of MVP consideration. But what happens when all of those performances are taking place in the same season? 4 players, 4 legitimate MVP cases, yet only 1 trophy can be handed out. So who deserves to be named the NBA's most valuable player this year? The answer depends on who you're asking and what they value most. Winning the MVP award has traditionally meant producing numbers that leap off the stat sheet. While statistics aren't the only factor, eye-popping box score production has become almost a requirement for MVP consideration. And right now, there are 2 players whose numbers don't just stand out this season, they stand out compared to almost every season in league history. If we focus strictly on raw statistics, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic are operating in a different universe from the rest of the NBA. Their production has become so outrageous that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, averaging 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists, somehow looks ordinary by comparison. When you combine points, rebounds, and assists, Jokic and Luka are posting 2 of the 5 most productive seasons in modern NBA history. Jokic has joined the exclusive 50 Club, a feat previously achieved only by 2017 MVP Russell Westbrook. Now, 2025 Jokic and 2024 Luka have entered that conversation as well. But if overwhelming statistics automatically guaranteed an MVP trophy, then Jokic would have won in 2025, Luka would have won in 2024, James Harden would have taken home the award in 2019, Luka again in 2023, LeBron James in 2018. As offensive numbers continue to rise throughout the NBA, historically significant seasons are becoming more common. In fact, 17 of the 20 most productive seasons in modern NBA history have occurred within the last 8 years. Performances that were once considered legendary milestones worthy of MVP recognition have now become almost routine for players like Jokic, Luka, and Giannis. And the more frequently we witness these incredible statistical explosions, the less shocking they become. Not too long ago, Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double virtually guaranteed him the MVP award. In today's NBA, averaging nearly 30 points and a triple-double might not even place you among the top 3 MVP candidates. Unlike many of the league's superstars who dominate through overwhelming volume, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has maintained his position as the MVP favorite through historic efficiency, remarkable consistency, and by leading the best team in basketball. According to ESPN's net points metric, Shai has had only 5 poor games all season. In fact, only 1 guard in NBA history has ever scored more efficiently while averaging at least 30 points per game. And that player is widely regarded as the greatest shooter the game has ever seen during the best season of his career. Yet describing Shai as merely efficient doesn't fully capture what he's doing. This season, he's averaging roughly 1.66 points every time he attempts a shot. That's the highest points per shot mark ever recorded by a high-volume scoring guard in NBA history. The 2026 version of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't simply having one of the most efficient guard seasons ever. He's having the most efficient scoring season by a guard that the league has ever seen. When compared to the other MVP candidates, Wembanyama's raw numbers don't immediately stand out. Much of his value comes on the defensive end of the floor. And while defensive impact doesn't always appear clearly in traditional box score statistics, Wembanyama has spent the entire season under a minutes restriction. However, when we adjust his production to a per 75 possessions basis, his impact becomes impossible to ignore. Suddenly, his numbers look comparable to the other MVP candidates despite not prioritizing offense the way they do.
Still, being named the most valuable player in basketball requires value that goes beyond simple statistics. But even after moving beyond the box score, the MVP debate doesn't become any easier. Who is the most valuable player this season? That depends entirely on what you value. According to estimated plus-minus, Shai not only leads the NBA, but owns the third highest single-season EPM recorded this century, trailing only 2019 MVP James Harden and 2016 MVP Stephen Curry. If we examine crafted plus-minus, Nikola Jokic emerges as the league's most impactful player this season, followed closely by Wembanyama and Shai. And when looking at daily plus-minus, Jokic once again sits comfortably at the top with a significant advantage over the rest of the field. If these advanced all-in-one metrics told the complete story, Nikola Jokic would likely be on his way to collecting a fourth MVP trophy. Fortunately for everyone else in the race, a player's value cannot be reduced to a single number. Before the season began, sportsbooks projected how many games each team would win. These projections can miss for several reasons: injuries, unexpected development from young players, roster changes, and of course the impact of a true MVP caliber superstar. The Denver Nuggets entered the season projected to win 54 games. They're currently tracking toward around 52 wins. The Oklahoma City Thunder were projected for 63 wins and are now on pace to exceed that mark. The Lakers were expected to finish with 47 wins, but are currently tracking closer to 53. Then there's the Spurs, who've shattered expectations. Preseason projections placed them at roughly 45 wins. Instead, they're on pace for an incredible 62-win season, outperforming expectations by 17 victories. If your definition of value centers on exceeding expectations, then perhaps the MVP belongs to the player who transformed the Spurs into a hopeful playoff team into a legitimate championship contender. But evaluating the MVP through that lens ties individual value directly to team success. And as we've seen for years, although the MVP is technically an individual award, public perception of value is often shaped by how successful a player's team is. After all, if you're truly the most valuable player in basketball, shouldn't your team be competing for a championship? Rather than focusing solely on wins and losses, let's examine individual impact. Dunks and Threes tracks a metric called estimated wins, which combines a player's quality of play with their total minutes to estimate how many victories they've contributed to their team throughout the season. Interestingly, our 4 MVP candidates rank as the top 4 players in the NBA in estimated wins, with totals of 13.6, 14.6, 16.0, and 18.0 wins added. They clearly separate themselves from the rest of the league. Nikola Jokic has directly contributed to roughly 1/3 of Denver's victories, yet it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who has added the most wins to his team's total this season. Still, perhaps the most accurate way to measure value is by comparing how a team performs when a player is on the floor versus when they're off it. How much does a player's presence actually change his team's performance? Looking at on-off numbers, we see teams like the Celtics continuing to thrive even without Jaylen Brown, while teams like the Jazz completely collapse without Lauri Markkanen. When examining the league's biggest on-court impacts, 4 names stand above the rest: Kawhi Leonard, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Wembanyama. Wembanyama leads the NBA with an incredible +17 net differential. In simple terms, the Spurs are 17 points better per 100 possessions whenever he's on the floor. But this statistic also highlights an important complication in the MVP discussion. We often evaluate a player's impact based on team success, and that has always influenced MVP voting. Historically, MVP awards usually go to stars on elite teams and top seeds. But what happens when a player provides MVP-level value on a team that isn't winning enough games? Take Bam Adebayo, for example. With Bam on the court, the Miami Heat own a net rating above +7, one of the strongest marks in the NBA. His impact dramatically changes how competitive Miami is. The same argument can be made for players like Giannis and Kawhi, whose influence remains MVP caliber regardless of where their teams sit in the standings.
Injury-plagued seasons and struggling teams often hide just how valuable some players really are. Looking only at wins and standings ignores how hard certain stars have to carry their teams just to keep them competitive. That said, MVP voters have traditionally rewarded players who turn good teams into great ones rather than players who simply keep bad teams afloat. The media, however, sees things differently. In the NBA's annual MVP straw poll, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander received the overwhelming majority of first-place votes, comfortably leading the race. Historically, this poll has accurately predicted the eventual MVP every single year since its introduction. Throughout the season, several players have entered and exited the MVP conversation. Luka surged, Cade Cunningham climbed the rankings, but for much of the year, Nikola Jokic controlled the race until injuries opened the door for Shai to take over. If the award went to the best player on the best team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would likely win it. If it went to the player with the greatest impact on his team's success, Victor Wembanyama would become the youngest MVP in NBA history. If it went to the most dominant individual player, Nikola Jokic would be collecting his 4th MVP trophy. And if the fans had the final vote, Luka Doncic would probably walk away with the award. With only 2 weeks left in the season, the MVP race has become closer than ever. 4 players, 4 legitimate cases, 1 trophy. And when the season finally ends, only one of them will be able to call himself the NBA's most valuable player. If you enjoyed this video and want more NBA content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.